new construction condos, or a condo conversion, or just a condo in existence? Which direction should you go in? That's what we're going to talk about today. Stay tuned. Hi, it's me, Ashley with Keller Williams in Everett. I'm a real estate agent up here. I have tons of videos that are going to help you with your home buying process. And as you know, right now I'm doing a series looking at just condo, what's going on with them, okay? They're very, very popular. There are a lot of people buying them for many, many different reasons. And I thought, hey, you know, let's put together a set of videos that can help give you like little nuggets of information to help with your condo buying process. But before I get started today, we're going to talk about condo conversions versus new build condos versus just condos in existence, okay? Before I get started, I am working with a buyer that is looking for a brick house built sometime in the 1930s or 1940s in the Everett area. So if you are thinking about selling, or you know someone who's thought about selling that owns such a house, have them get in touch with me. We'll see what we can work out. Okay, so on with the video. All right, so I wanted to talk about kind of like the pros and cons, like, you know, a newly constructed condo. Maybe you've never heard of a condo conversion. And you know what, I'll start off, actually, the thing that I was thinking about when I started this video is, you know, okay, well, are there any newly constructed condos in Everett right now? I can tell you, to my knowledge, there are not, and there really aren't any in the future, planned in the near future, maybe far out. There could possibly be some conversions, but really not any time soon. So this may not apply so much to the Everett market, and it probably doesn't apply very much to the Seattle market as well, as far as newly constructed condos. But condo conversions, for sure. Okay, existing condos, for sure. So let's sort of talk about newly constructed condos. So basically what happens is you have a developer. They are like, oh, I want to build condos. You know, they do all the process. They buy the land, they get approved, and they build some units, okay? So what are sort of like the pros and cons, if you will? So one of the biggest pros is that going into your first year in your condo, it's very unlikely that you're going to have underfunded reserves, okay? Because when the association and the bylaws and everything kick in and they come in and they get their first set of owners, they have pretty strict kind of like buy-in requirements. So like kind of like an initial amount to sort of fund the condo association. The other piece of that is obvious that, you know, it's brand new, so there's really nothing to replace. Okay, so nothing to worry about initially. So that's fantastic. The one sort of downside to that is usually what happens is developers will have like a lower assessment. And what happens then in the future, you know, you get like 4 or 5 years out, and it turns out that yes, 4 or 5 years out, the reserve is underfunded, and it could cause the monthly assessment, so this would be the HOA fee, to increase. And it could increase dramatically, sort of depending on what they foresee as some maintenance issues. The other piece related to the maintenance issues is that you probably won't know if there are any issues with the condos for a while as far as like construction defects, because you move in, it's new, you know, the buildings kind of go through this process where they settle and they move and they shift and they do all these different things, and you might not know that there are those defects. And if there are defects, then of course the association comes together and they're like, okay, well, how are we going to address this? Then they'll find out, oh man, we don't really have the money to address this because it was like an expense that they didn't foresee. And then of course that leads to something like a special assessment. Now, I'm not saying that this happens in all developments. I'm just saying this is the possibility. So these are things to kind of think about when you're like, okay, should I go with a new build? Should I go with something that's already established? The other piece of that is that sometimes, you know, depending on how the developer hired the contractors, you know, you may have some issues with some of the workmanship. But, you know, these are all things that you can find out in advance and see, okay, is it bad? I don't know. The other thing that they might do is instead of like really addressing an issue like the builder or the developer, instead of really addressing an issue, they might kind of like do like a temporary fix because they're like, well, we sold the units, you know, for them, they feel like their responsibility is done, and they're going to probably do as little as they can if some type of defect is revealed within the time period in which they're responsible. Okay. So now, on to condo conversion. So a condo conversion, what happens with that is this is basically what you had is you had an apartment, and then that apartment got turned into condo units. Okay, so the developer said, okay, we're going to take this apartment, and now we're going to sell all the units. Okay, so the good thing about condo conversions is usually there are sort of restrictions with the city. And so those buildings have been around and in existence for a time. Okay, so they may not have like what you would call like an established condo association or condo community, but it has been being managed. And you also have the advantage of the building has sort of sat in that place. And sometimes condo conversions, I mean, they could be, you know, the apartment building could be like 30 years old, and then they're like, oh, okay, we're gonna do a conversion. And so you kind of know more about like what are possible defects, what are things that might need to be fixed in the condo, and all that stuff, which is great. So, you know, the more information, the better. I mean, I think that that's really, you know, we're in an age where information is just, boom, you just want as much as possible. So you get more information about the building. The other thing is sometimes with condo conversions, the actual communities are located in really unique locations, right? Because you might have an apartment building that was built in, say, downtown Everett, where you can't build an apartment anymore, or you can't build condos anymore for many reasons. Maybe there are restrictions for zoning, or there's just no land. And so you end up with a really unique location, and this also happens in Seattle. Whereas, you know, in contrast, if they're going to do like a new build condo complex, the location might not be as good, right? Like they're just going to have to use whatever land is left over. And of course, they're going to try to make it look attractive, and it probably is. It is what it is. Okay, it could be great, not as great. But the point is that with these condo conversions, you usually end up with a more unique location, which is awesome. The other piece of it that is maybe a downside is that the developer that's doing the conversion may not address all of the structural issues, right? They might just say, look, the plumbing needs to be replaced in 10 years, but I'm not going to deal with that. You know, let the new owners come in, let them fund the association, let them figure out what their assessments are going to be, and they can handle it. Okay, so that's sort of like one thing. Like you might, you know, there may be maintenance issues that you may have to deal with. Okay, so now in a similar vein, condo conversions are sort of similar to like existing condos, right? So you go in and you want to do your evaluation on an existing condo, and you have no idea really what they've been doing for maintenance. I mean, you just need to look at all the information to sort of see where are the finances, what has been done, what hasn't been done, what needs to be done, so that you can kind of understand what you're in for. All right, and so in the same vein as the condo conversion, usually existing condos have been around for a while. Usually they have an established association. You know, whether or not that association is strong is a completely different conversation. And you know, check out my video on that. Okay, so you know, they're fairly similar in that way, I think, as far as like knowledge of what kind of maintenance needs to be done, how much of it has been addressed, how much cash am I going to have. And you just know a lot more about the building and how, like, the quality, how well it was built, compared to new builds. So that is my video. If you have any other questions about condos or single family houses or anything like that, put them down below in comments. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel. I have like so many great videos, okay? So many great videos that'll help you out. Follow me on Facebook and check out my website, ashleybolden.com, and I'll see you again soon, YouTube.